Library Director Sonia Bautista and invocation by Council Member Garcia. Huh? She's not?
She's
Okay.
joined our wonderful mayor down in Aguas Calientes.
Oh, that's right. Vilko, would you like to lead us in the pledge? Thank you.
Okay. Everyone place their right hand over their hearts. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Esteemed members of the City Council, business, and residents, as we gather today, let's celebrate our unity and the positive momentum in our community. From thriving businesses to compassionate volunteers, we're witnessing great things happening around us. Let's approach our discussion with openness and collaboration, drawing on the richness of our diverse perspectives. Together, we can address challenges and achieve remarkable outcomes. With a shared commitment to progress, let's commence our meeting and work towards a brighter future for all. Amen.
Appearances and presentations. We have item number 1, a proclamation declaring April 2024 a Sexual Assault Awareness Month and April 24th, 2024 as Denim Day. Is there somebody that was going to present?
I think we should wait. Yeah.
Okay, good evening, City Council. I'm Moira Garcia, Social Service Coordinator, and I'm here to talk a little bit about Denim Day. April is Sexual Awareness Month, and for the past 25 years, the last Wednesday of April is internationally known as Denim Day. And Denim Day is a day that we all wear denim to support survivors of sexual assault. And I would like to show a video so that we can get a little bit more information about Denim Day. So at this time, I would like to encourage employees and public officials to wear denim tomorrow, April 24th, to support and protect each other from violence. That's it. Thank you. And I also would like the Vice Mayor, Vice Mayor to read the proclamation, please.
A proclamation of the City of or City Council of the City of Commerce designating the month of April 2024 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and designating April 24th, 2024 as Denim Day. Whereas the United States government has declared April 2024 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Peace Over Violence has declared April 24, 2024 as Denim Day in Los Angeles County. And whereas both events are intended to draw attention to the fact that rape and sexual assault remains a serious issue in our society, and whereas International Denim Day has been observed since April 1999 as a part of an international protest of an Italian Supreme Court decision to overturn a rape conviction because the victim was wearing jeans. Every year since, community members, elected officials, businesses, and students have organized to make a social statement with their fashion statement and wear jeans as a visible means of protest against myths that surround sexual assault and honor the survivors who have experienced victim blaming. And whereas approximately 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men are raped during their lifetime, and nearly 1 in 2 women and 1 in 5 men have experienced other forms of sexual violence. And whereas approximately 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys have had an unwanted or abusive sexual experience in childhood. And whereas the members of the City of Commerce City Council strongly support the efforts of Peace Over Violence to educate persons in our community about the true impact of rape and sexual assault. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Commerce does hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, designates April 24th, 2024 as Denim Day, and urges everyone to wear jeans on April 24th, 2024 to help communicate the message that there is no excuse and never an invitation to rape, passed and adopted this 23rd day of April 24, City Council, Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you for all your support, and thank you for always supporting all our month awarenesses. Any concerns or comments? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to public comment. The first speaker that I have is Yvonne Savandal. Dina, what is it? I can't read this one.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Yvonne Sandoval. I live at 5802 Bartmouth Street, City of Commerce, 940. So I'm here to share information. It's been a couple of good, I think 7 years that I have been involved with the Department of Mental Health through particularly one organization, and they're named Project Return Peer Support Network. They used to be here in Commerce, but their office is in Huntington Park. I took a course there, and it gave me a certificate to be a peer support specialist. And that certificate means that anybody around me or myself that has mental challenges or things of that nature, that people like us would be a perfect example to help others, going through things. Oh, I got 3 minutes, that's right. So The other organization or the big folks is Department of Mental Health. And all the years that I pertained or was in their meetings, I was able to be voted in as a co-chair about a year and a half ago. My term is almost over. So I'm finally here. I've been able to have two groups because of Project Return, and their acronyms are PRPSN, when you want to look that up. So I have one still online, which is with heypeers.com. That's where you'll find my group of Grandma's Remedies, because as we all know, or maybe you don't really know, that sometimes it's not just a mental crisis. Sometimes there's things that we need in our body that helps us get along, minerals, water, and sometimes people bypass that because they just think, oh, it's my mental thing, has nothing to do with my body, and it's not really true. But anyway, that's my group on heypeers.com. Okay, my other group, through the pandemic, I was able to do phone calls, so I didn't really have to come out and say much or any of that sort. And so now I have a live group, and it's here at the senior center. Okay, Wednesdays, like when everybody's having lunch, 11 o'clock to almost 1 o'clock. Every Wednesday from now on. I started the 1st of April, the 2nd of April. So there's that. And then I have 23 seconds left. So the last part I really want to share with you all is that I have posted that May is Mental Health Month for the County of Los Angeles. So we have 8 areas. This here, Commerce and surrounding cities, we are Area 7. And so this Area 7 will be hosting their first mental health event at Belvedere Lake Park by way of First Street come May the 4th, which will be the first Saturday of May. To reemphasize, I've been to almost all their events. Last year they had a slur of events, but this one they're going to have 2 main ones, May the 4th and June 8th. The June 8th will be at Southgate Park, and that one was amazing. There was 2,500 people that showed up. Last year's there was quite a number, but I don't have those numbers with me. But this is an amazing opportunity. There will be many vendors of different kind, not just mental health, right? Because I saw that with my own eyes. I just want to share that. And another way how you could find it is by logging on to takeaction.com. Now, you'll find that it now also, if you log on to the LA County website, if you look for LA County Department of Mental Health, as you scroll, you will see the flyer, Take Action. And if you click on that, it'll give you almost a day-to-day, because I've looked it up and I see it's now, they've made it very easy, because we're all screaming, hey, we need to make this more accessible for others to be able to find it. It's been an amazing journey. I'm really grateful. I'm not so scared anymore being up here and talking about this. Plática can be plática with my group. Doesn't have to be so heavy. You can just come, say hello, or say nothing, but just be a part of it. Sometimes on my heypeers.com, when they're new, of course, I have to give my disclosure. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just a professional guinea pig. And what I explain and share is what I've done for myself. And of course, you guys all know when I'm sharing, it's from me, right? So I just thank you. I've been very happy being here in Commerce and all the programs. And I don't get a chance to say this because I've talked on other issues when I've been up here. And it continues to be an amazing journey and a lot of support. But now I want to open up and destigmatize what mental health is all about. Please help support me. I welcome your visit. I saw Oralia that first, and I go, oh my God, I have to tell her I'm going to do it here. And, I'm going to just do it here. I had a choice. They said, Yvonne, you could do it at McDonald's. I could do it at Starbucks. And that day that there was no exercise for me with Veronica, I get and I go, well, hello, of course they're not going to have exercise. The machines from election is still in there. And I go, what am I going to do? I have an hour to spend. And I go, the senior center. I walked over there and I said, oh, this is it. This is where I'm going to have my group. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Hasta luego.
We have a next speaker, and we had a little problem trying to read it. Is it Ophelia or who's the next? There's only two speakers. The person that filled out the second card is welcome to come up. Who? Antonia? Antonia. I'm sorry. We couldn't read it. Looked like an L. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Antonia Lupercio. My address is 2219 Ransom Street. And I am here because I received this letter signed for all of you, inviting me to participate in the donations for the scholarship. And I believe this is Evelyn's job. This is her responsibility. And even though you're trying to show that you care for our youth, and I don't think you do, because if you do, why haven't you opened those libraries more hours? You're taking a while. It's already 2 years that we've been asking for more hours on the other branches. And you approved to open on Saturdays this library. We have youth all over the city of Commerce, and you guys are not supporting these people. You took the buses away for them to ride all the way over here, and you closed the libraries. And you haven't done nothing for the Bandini Library yet. I guess some of you haven't seen the small pieces of the small place where they trying to feed the people in there, and you still don't wake up and don't do nothing for that? What are you guys doing there? What is it, your purpose? The employees are not happy. The residents are not happy. Are you happy doing this kind of job? Thank you.
Thank you, Antonia. There's no other public speakers, so we're going to go ahead and close public comment at this time. We're going to move over to consent calendar. We have items 2 through 9. Is there a motion for approval?
Vice Mayor, I would like to pull item number 9.
We are pulling item number 9, so at this time, we're moving to vote on items number 2 through number 8. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? C9, motion passes, and we'll move on to item number 9. Is there anybody that prepared to speak, or would you like to ask some questions now? Okay.
Good evening, City Council. Greg Alanis, Director, Parks and Rec.
Hi, Greg. Thank you for coming up. Just a couple of questions about the positions. I read through the job specifications, and everything seemed pretty standard, but I just wanted clarification and confirmation that a driver's license is not required for this position.
That is correct. It is not necessary at this time.
Okay, so it wouldn't preclude an applicant from moving forward in the process?
No, absolutely. And we double checked today with Human Resources, and they confirmed.
Okay, perfect. And then my other question is, when are these positions scheduled to fly?
Again, good question. Tomorrow morning,
Okay.
or actually, I take that back, by the end of tomorrow.
Okay.
And we will fly it for 2 weeks with a closing date of May 8th.
Okay. Is there an anticipated fill date?
We hope to have everybody on board at the beginning of June.
And then my final question, somewhat related, the Performing Arts Program Specialist position that was recently vacated, is there a plan to fill that position?
There has been a request made to Human Resources, and we're working out the details right now. That is a full-time position, so we hope to have that out and about in the next few weeks. So,
But,
it
but
should
the
happen.
plan is to move forward and fill that position.
Absolutely, yes.
So let me add something to that. In my discussions with HR, just prior to this meeting, we're gonna try to do this parallel. So along with the supervisor position, along with these two, we're gonna try to get them out by tomorrow, and they will have a similar track, and then hopefully we'll have three positions filled by the beginning of June.
Yeah, I think that would be optimal,
Yeah.
so thank you for looking into that.
You're welcome.
All right, that concludes my questions, thank you.
I have a follow-up question. Is that okay with you, Vice Mayor? So, Councilmember mentioned that the driver's license is not needed for this position. Is there a reason why? Aren't they an instructor where they need to take them to performances and?
No, this parallels one of the other positions that does not necessarily need a driver's license. However, with that said, doesn't mean that doesn't preclude them from getting it in the future. So should we need to have them get it, we can recommend that they get it. But they do not travel with the kids at this time.
Do any of your programs travel with the kids? Is this like a normality where they do not travel with the kids?
Well, in
Or I should
particular,
say the teens.
Unplug, yeah, they do not travel with the kids. Most of their programming, if not all of it, is actually done at the teen center.
Okay.
If there is a field trip of some sort to go watch a play, it's our senior rec leaders would take the lead, and perhaps with the assistance of the two instructors or the full-time employee.
So they are performing in a different city, the parents will be taking them over there to the performances?
Not necessarily. If they were to perform in another city or another venue, yes, the parents would have to take them at this time. However, we can make arrangements with our senior rec leaders to transport them to get there. But at this time, again, this particular position does not require a license.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Those are my questions.
Go ahead.
It was kind of going to be just a follow-up with the two comments just made. But it's my understanding that the specialist does require a license and they're the person that drives if they go out, correct?
That is correct.
So the specialist will remain the specification will still remain where they have to have the license, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then I just wanted to say thank you for the idea of flying it at the same time, because I was trying to understand why this position was being flown, if it was approved as like a support to the specialist, right? So I was like, how are we gonna hire a support if we don't have a specialist anymore? So I'm glad that it's gonna fly at the same time, because it's, it's needed. I know the kids have a performance in July, so, someone needs to step in there. So thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, so at this time, is there a motion?
So Vice Mayor, if no other questions from the council, I'll move to approve for the staff report.
Is
I'll
there a
second.
second? There's a second. All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Seeing none. Motion passes. We'll move on to schedule matters. Item number 10, a presentation update from the Sheriff's Department of Public Safety in the City of Commerce. Sarge?
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and council members. I will be providing you the public safety report for the City of Commerce. On the first slide, you will see a heat map, which will tell you where most of our crimes is occurring. As you could see, most of the crimes are on the Commerce Center and the Citadel, which are our bright red areas. We have a lot of activity going on at the Bandini area, vehicle thefts, along with grand thefts. You can see that most activity, the days of the week on your left-hand side, it has a column of days of the week when these incidents are most likely occurring. We have an increase on Friday and Saturday of the activities occurring. And right below that, you have the time of day of counts. Depending on when the person reports the incident is what we account for. So as you can see, a lot of the activity happens after 5 p.m. during the nighttime. So this is a big map of the generic areas. You can see where a lot of the crime is happening. On the next slide, I will show you what's actually happening from April, the beginning of April to current date. So we have a total of, sorry, let's see. So aggravated assaults, we're gonna have, I believe that's a 9, sorry. Robberies, we're gonna have 3. Burglaries, we're gonna have 12. Other thefts, 33. Auto thefts, 13. And we have 1 arson. So as you could see from the timeline, the orange is this month. We've been having a slight decrease in crime from the beginning of the year. On the next slide, I will give you some Commerce SAO activities. Deputies arrested a male Hispanic for taking a vehicle without owner's consent using our new flock system. Same thing, deputies arrested another male Hispanic for taking a vehicle without owner's consent with the assistance with the flock cameras. Deputies arrested a male Hispanic for bribery. East LA Captain Dean, Commerce SAO deputies, along with city staff, attended a neighborhood watch meeting at Bristol Park. Commerce SAO deputies, social worker Ed Saucedo, and Ocean Blue conducted a cleanup of numerous locations throughout the city. I will have photos in the next slide. East LA deputies are monitoring traffic concerns on Gage and other areas of concern. Code enforcement and Commerce SAO deputies continue to monitor illegal street vendors. So on the last slide, those are just a few of the locations, as you could see, before and after photographs of locations where we had numerous encampments and how to clean and try to offer assistance to these people. Unfortunately, most of them have refused our services. At this time, that concludes my report. If we have any questions.
Hold on 1 minute. Tengo una pregunta. There's a question. This is Mayor Hugo Argumedo.
Oh, go ahead, Mayor.
First of all, thank you all. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm actually out of town, and of course, I'm dialed in and I'm hearing the work you're all doing. My thanks and gratitude to each of the council and all of our partners here in the city of Aguascalientes. Send their best regards. We've just had a great reception over here, and they were all very pleased and happy. But they send their best wishes to all of you, but let me just ask a brief, just a comment related to our sergeant. I want to thank her and our entire team for the great job they're doing with, again, reviving our neighborhood watch meetings in our community, number one. And also, there was a recent incident that took place over on Gage in the Veterans Park area, and I want to thank our sergeant for coordinating a couple of meetings. We'll be having a neighborhood watch meeting. I believe it's tomorrow. And we're going to try to hopefully come up with a game plan in working with not only our city staff, but also with the staff of our neighboring city of Bell Gardens. And hopefully their leadership will also show up to the meeting. And hopefully we can come up with a comprehensive plan to try to address the ongoing speeding problems over on Gage. So, I know that I'm out of town, and I'm expected to be back on Saturday, but I look forward to the outcome of the meeting tomorrow, and hopefully we'll come up with some recommendations on how to best address that issue with speeding on Gage Avenue over in the Veterans Park area. So, again, thanks to our team and everybody working to hopefully turn this negative situation that we recently had over there into a positive result over there. So, and I want to thank our Vice Mayor also for forwarding me an update related to, I believe there was an arrest made in that incident over there. Thank you for forwarding that information and providing some update on that. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mayor. And I have a question for the city attorney. Now that we are aware that the mayor is in the meeting on the phone, is there something that you need to say in order to make things right?
That is correct. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. I was not informed that the mayor was participating until later this evening, so I'm going to go ahead and just add on the record that the record should reflect that Mayor Argumedo will be participating remotely as authorized by Assembly Bill 2449 under the Just Cause exemption, which allows a member of the legislative body to appear remotely for no more than 2 meetings. without complying with the requirements of the Brown Act related to the agendizing of the teleconference location and accessibility to the public from such remote location. And with that said, it would now appropriate to continue with the meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for your comments. Is there any other comments or questions you have for Sergeant? Sarge, thank you so much for all the great work you guys do. Continue to do the good work, and we appreciate you.
Okay,
Thank you. Moving on to item number 11, award construction contract to All American Asphalt for the fiscal year 2023-24 pavement rehab project.
Vice Mayor, Mayor virtually, and council members, good evening. Kevin is bringing up have a very brief slide presentation. To begin with, I just wanted to say that I want to call attention to the fact that this is a 2-year combined pavement management program. So we do have multiple sources of funding, mostly from Measure AA, as you can see listed here, from fiscal year 22-23 and 23-24, in addition to some monies from STEP grant and also from the RMRA. And these streets that were selected, you have a full list in your staff report. However, I do want to call attention to the fact that they were selected by the city's pavement management system based on the condition, and also we tried to align some projects with this pavement management program, and so we delayed that first implementation of the first year so that we could capture some of the additional things that we wanted to do. The project timeline is 80 working days. It's Monday through Friday. The start date is to be determined once we've onboarded the contractor. The work hours are traditionally 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. during the day. There are some aspects, some sections of the project that will be done at night, and those hours would be from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. The contractors are required to notice anybody that's going to be impacted in a certain area 1 week prior to the start of the project, and also to post no parking signs 48 hours in advance, just so that council knows that this notification is part of the project. Some highlights that I wanted to include this evening is that as part of this 2-year project, we're going to be also including Bandini Library and Learning Center parking lot, which is in very poor shape, and that entire alley on Atlantic behind the library. We're also including the Rosewood Park parking lot off of Harbor. We are including roadway speed cushions on Triggs and Ferguson, which council had previously approved, and approved also to be included in this pavement rehab project. Also, Smithway and Saybrook would be a nighttime construction, as will Eastern's restriping Harbor Commerce Way with the bike lanes, that loop that is part of the master plan. And traffic safety improvements at Greenwood and Bandini intersection. As you can see by the very small diagram, there are going to be pavement markings, stop ahead, stop bars, refreshing, a right turn only arrow, some raised markers on the pavement to help that intersection where we've had some issues in the past, and we continue to try to address it. The recommendation this evening is to approve the plans and specifications for the 23-24 pavement rehabilitation project, award a construction contract to All American Asphalt as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for the 23-24 pavement rehabilitation project in the amount of $8.1 million approximately for the total base bid schedules A and B, and an additive bid schedule A and B, which includes Yates and Flotilla where repairs need to be done, as well as the Atlantic alley behind the library. Authorize up to 10% construction contract for contingency for unforeseen conditions. Authorize up to 10% of the total construction contract contingency for construction management and inspection services, and authorize Translink engineers to proceed with the construction. management inspection services pursuant to their existing on-call agreement for consulting services. And with that, that concludes my report this evening.
I'm sure there's gonna be some questions, and we have Councilwoman Rebollo that raised her hand.
Yeah, I have a question and a comment. Commerce Way, didn't we just work on the street?
This would be the addition of the step grant bike lanes, the striping.
Oh, got it,
To
okay.
finish that loop, we had initially started on Eastern. The loop was to continue on Harbor and
Okay,
Commerce
I
Way
I might have missed
and
that,
exit
sorry.
out on Eastern.
Okay,
So with the changes in Eastern, you know, that's all included, just the restriping.
okay. So I'm seeing a lot of, is this just for bike lane restriping? No, right? It's just in general?
I'm sorry.
All these streets are not just for bike
No.
restriping, right?
No,
So-
the streets are pavement rehab.
I'm noticing like a lot of industrial streets, and some residential streets. Is there like a reason for that?
Yeah, there's the pavement management system, as you recall, was initially focused entirely on residential streets to kind of catch up for
Mhm.
a lot of those. And then most of the industrial commercial streets were delayed much later. If we continue to delay too much into
Mhm.
the future, we're looking at reconstruction, which is far more expensive than just paving at this time. So we've kind of reached a point where we need to pay attention to some of those streets to save, you know, the major costs down the road. And then we come back to, you know, doing alleys next year and more residential streets. And
Huh.
that you'll see with the new CIP that will be presented soon.
Can it still be where we're 50-50? This is a lot of industrial and not a lot of
It
residential
is.
streets.
This time it is. We've been probably now, I want to say it's been at least 8 years that we've been focused on the residential streets. But we have had to pay attention, as I said, because you can only go so far. And we're getting a lot of requests, we're getting complaints, especially during the rainy seasons where they're really starting to crumble, and we're spending a lot of dollars just to keep them repaired, until which time we can repave.
Do we have an option, if possible, to move more money to do more residential streets?
That would be part of the CIP, which is coming to you very
Okay.
soon.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Vice Mayor, I have a question. Just going back to Eastern, so where we're going to restore the vehicle lane on Eastern between Washington and Stevens Place, right? Or
Yes.
Harbor.
The Harbor, yes.
Harbor. And so it will still be a share the road. It'll be a class 3 bike lane. Have we come up with a design? And I only ask because I know we had talked about implementing green reflective paint, and I've seen a couple of ways of how that's been implemented. So I don't know if there's been any thought on how that's going to be applied on Eastern Ave.
Yes, there is, and we can certainly share that through the administration, through Vilco,
Okay.
to share with council.
Okay, yeah, if we can see that. And can you give me, so that's great, thank you. Can you give me an overview of how the pavement management system works?
Certainly. So it's essentially a software program, and we have all of the streets indexed. Initially, about, I want to say it was 8 or 9 years ago, all the streets were surveyed for a baseline. We entered all that information through consulting services that was hired at the time. And then every year, you know, it is updated as far as any streets that we have rehabbed, then go into the program, and that then starts, you know, a new time frame for how long that street will last. Okay. And there's an index as to how much money, it really comes down to how much money do you want to spend, or can we spend on, do you want a fair condition? Do you want a very good condition on the road? It's going to take a little bit more money to do so. So we try to keep in that kind of fair range to very good range. We don't want poor. We certainly don't want reconstructing streets. It will cost a heck of a lot more for the city. So we try to keep that maintenance level of fairness to very good, and to buy ourselves at least 5 years, if not longer, before we have to come back to that same street. So we're trying to, at some point, make the loop with all of the streets that we possibly can. It's very hard because it's very costly. We start off with about 4.5 million annually when things keep going up. So this year we're combining it with economies of scale. We can get a better price. All American Asphalt, whom we're recommending the award to tonight, is a very reputable company who do a good job. And so we're trying, this way this year for economies of scale. We have alleys that are in very, very poor condition that have not had any attention to them. And that's going to be part of the CIP program. We're going to be recommending that we come back this time and take care of those alleys. And so that's something we haven't done, before. And hopefully once we take care of them, we'll be looking at maybe 20 years of lifespan for those alleys. Then we can revert back to focusing, on residential. But it's really a software program. We're entering data, it's spitting out data, and we can't get to it all. But we are trying to, every year, chip away at it and keep a certain level of service, so at least the city is maintained as much as it can be with the budgets that we have.
Understood. That's helpful. Thank you, Gina. I didn't know about the system, so I think for me, this is really informative. So, it basically rotates it, right? Based on
Yes.
the conditions that we want the streets in, based on the money we're willing to spend.
Exactly.
And then it'll process all of that and just keep things in rotation.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if it helps, I did make a request of the city council. We're going to set some dates up here in the next couple of weeks to review the upcoming proposed CIP with myself and Gina. At that time, perhaps maybe Gina can provide you a little bit more detail as it relates to that particular system.
Councilwoman Garcia, you have a question?
Just a quick follow-up, Gina. Did you mention that there's going to be a one-way, or there's a right turn only street? Did you say
Oh, that
something?
was for the Greenwood Bandini
Greenwood Bandini.
area. If we can go back, Kevin, to that. I don't
Is
know
that- is that
how
cutting off
much
it?
you can see it on your screens, but the one with the diagram, Kevin, which was prior to that.
Will we be cutting off any lanes?
Yeah, if you can see the street to the left, that right turn arrow is part of the new pavement markers.
Oh, that was the last presentation that you made?
I'm sorry,
Was that with the last presentation that you made last meeting, where?
not on
I'm
this
sorry.
street,
I'm
at
on
the
wrong-
last
I'm on the
meeting.
wrong street. Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
So would this affect any lanes being cut off, or from two lanes
no,
to
no.
one lane?
No, this is where that right turn arrow is. Across from it is a one-way heading towards the street. So there's no entry, but people are, I don't know, accidentally.
I wouldn't say accidentally.
Okay.
So probably about a year ago or so, I met, an engineer with Transtech because there were some accidents taking place because what some individuals do when they were going to go right and then round in the neighborhood, they were going straight down the one-way street, and as a result of that, I believe at least one house, if not more, had been clipped, and it had some damage to the walls. So the request was to provide an analysis on how we can deter that from taking place in the future. So this particular analysis and the diagram shown there, what it does, it emphasizes the right-hand turn lane because I believe there was also some vision impairment as a result of some trees. So that'll be addressed. So hopefully what they put into play will help people gravitate towards making a right-hand turn as opposed to shortcutting it through the one-way street.
Thank you for the update. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. No more questions? We're good? Okay, so then, at this time, then they have a recommendation, which is item 1 through 5. Is there a motion to adopt these 5 items?
Vice Mayor, I'll move to approve the recommendation and which is items 1 through 5 per the staff report.
Okay, is there a
Second.
there's a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to item number 12. And who's gonna give a presentation on number 12? And I think, was this one of your items? 12 and 13, okay. We'll get a presentation, and if you have any questions, then you can ask.
Good evening, Honorable Council. My name is Justin Edson, Public Safety at the City of Commerce. Tonight, I want to provide an update regarding our Business Watch program. So a little overview of Business Watch. This program is a crime prevention program that focuses on the participation of businesses, their employees, and citizens in coordination with law enforcement and local government to reduce crime in our community. The program provides business owners, property owners, and employees with crime prevention techniques and strategies to help curb crime in their area. Our goals with the program are to educate businesses on crime prevention through environmental design. Examples of this include lighting, cameras, security, fences, and signs. We also want to ensure that owners, managers, employees have updated contact information to report crimes and suspicious behavior. Encourage active reporting to our LA Sheriff Dispatch at the East LA Sheriff Station, and then also create a dialogue between businesses and city representatives. Some of the educational topics that we hope to cover with businesses in the city include crime prevention, as listed before, and then also providing resources and contact information for different departments and agencies to assist them with different issues, trespass information and private property towing, updates on crime trends and homelessness, suspicious activity, and keeping employees informed. These are some examples of the materials that we've put on social media and also provided with to some local businesses that have already reached out to us. And then this is our timeline. So last month in March, we started sharing this information on social media. We had some informal meetings with local businesses. We provided those contact information and helpful tips to them. And then next week, April 30th, we're actually meeting with the Commerce Business Council to coordinate future program events together. And so we'll be talking about ideas and ways that we could launch this. We are aiming for in June to have a formalized kickoff meeting with businesses. And then from that point forward, we'll be meeting with them regionally throughout the city on an ongoing basis. A lot of these locations throughout the city are in groups of businesses in their different areas, and each area has different concerns. So we definitely, just like Neighborhood Watch, we want to do a regional focus with each of these businesses, but the first one that we want to plan in June is a citywide kickoff with our businesses. So that's something that we'll be discussing next week. But ongoing, we want to improve our communications with these businesses so that we can share information with them, and then they can also communicate with us on an ongoing basis. And then lastly, just if anybody has any questions or the members of the public or other businesses want to reach out and inquire, I'd be the best point of contact. They want to reach out to me. We do have a goal that we're going to be working on in creating a business e-watch program so that they can sign up for emails and we can start a kind of a contacts database between us and them. Kind of like Mixel or some of these other programs that we do for emergencies. We're going to be developing that for the businesses so that we can have better communication with them as a whole. With that, I'm available for any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you,
Councilman.
Vice Mayor. Thank you, Justin. Thank you for giving a thorough response to my request for an update on this program. Much appreciated. I look forward to continuing to keep a strong bond with all our businesses, and I would like to see an update every 6 months, just to see where we are with that,
Okay.
so that we can support just support you in any efforts that you need. And that's basically my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Is there any other comments or questions, Councilwoman Reboy?
I just wanted to thank you. I've seen such a huge improvement in just even the way we promote public safety, right? How active you are on social media. And I see that the community is starting to comment and to like and to understand, right? Especially to understand what the roles are of our CSOs and to see the things that they do. And with that, I want to say thank you for the Business Watch program, but I would be remiss if I don't include a thank you to Sergeant Duarte, who before you came on, she was already trying to do all this, but she's one person, and everybody is coming at her with like different things. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you to the sergeant for. I know that you guys are collaborating together, so I think also what I would suggest for the social media page is to also include our special problems team and like things that they're doing. I think that would be a good idea to have the community really see, or maybe like an introduction to, right, like how they do like little bios, like this is so and so and blah blah blah, whatever, I don't know. I just think that you're doing a fantastic job with the social media, and it's one of our biggest platforms to get information out to folks. But also I wanted to suggest maybe like presentations, maybe once every 3 months, like at the senior center. Not everybody has social media, and I think I like everything that you guys are teaching us as a community, but sometimes for those folks that are not on social media, those are usually the conversations I have at the senior center. Is they tell me like, well, we don't think with Facebook, so I think it would be a good idea to kind of do those presentations there, and just, I don't know, it could be a little pamphlet or whatever, right? Anything that you post in there, just for them to also know what's going on in public safety. But thank you very much. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you. Great points. I will include those.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Justin, I just want to echo the same sentiments. I think you're doing a fantastic job, you and your team, right? And definitely appreciate the support from Sergeant Duarte and her team. So thank you, Sergeant. I've spoken to a couple of members of the Business Council, as I'm sure some of my colleagues have, and one of the things that they really want to do is really strengthen the bond between them and the city, right? And I think this is one thing that really would go a long way in doing so. Ultimately, Commerce is a business-friendly city, right? And businesses should be able to feel supported and feel like they're set up for success here. And I think programs like Business Watch help make that happen. So I really appreciate Councilwoman Garcia for getting this agendized last meeting, and just you moving forward and just making sure that this happens for our community, because the business community is an important part of the city of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. And this is it a receive and file, or is this just us? Yeah, receive and file. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to item number 13, which is the code enforcement operations presentation, which this is also your item, Councilman? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. Ralph Rivera, your code enforcement supervisor, here to give you a brief overview of code enforcement operations and procedures. So code enforcement, I'm often asked, what is your authority? So our authority comes from the city council, or the city municipal code, so CMC. And that's CMC 112130, the authority of authorized city employees to enforce and issue citations, misdemeanor or infraction violations, must be committed in officers or employees' presence. Recently, we adopted CMC 112140, and this allows city officials vested with authority to enforce many issues via administrative citation. That is a non-judicial form of citation. Although it's always the goal of the city to obtain voluntary compliance, there will be instances where compliance must be compelled by administrative, non-judicial, or judicial means, which implies court. Due process. We have to abide by the 5th and 14th Amendments, due process and equal protection for all. Fair treatment through the normal judicial system is a citizen's entitlement. We also have to abide by the 4th Amendment. We can't just go on to properties. Inspections must be done with consent or by obtaining a warrant. And we need reasonable cause rather than probable cause to obtain evidence of a crime. Violation of our municipal code is a crime. Enforceable entry will only be allowed with prior approval by a judge. Compliance. Compliance is a team effort. Currently, we have code enforcement staff, which consists of one supervisor, myself, and one part-time officer. Currently, we are going through a recruitment process. The first round of interviews were done today. So we hope to have a new full-time code enforcement on board soon. Okay, code enforcement, our main priority is customer service. We investigate, issue notices of violation. When necessary, we issue citations, but ultimately we are the liaisons to compliance. The other part of our team are the economic development staff, planning division and building safety. We rely on them heavily to work clients through compliance. Collaboration with other entities such as county, state, such as LASD, LA County Fire, LA County Health, Caltrans, Union Pacific, and BNSF Railroad Police. We also work closely with the City Attorney's Office, our Deputy City Attorney, Christy Garcia. She helps us with compliance letters, conducting office conferences, obtaining warrants, and, of course, representing us in court matters. Crime prevention. We are part of the crime prevention team. Community engagement. We participate in neighborhood watch meetings, business watch meetings, public safety events, and special operation task force. We patrol, observe code violations, as well as public safety and public works related issues. This all goes down to the broken window theory, in which if a community looks to be not cared for, it invites crime. So we combat that. We also conduct homeless outreach and encampment abatement. We assist social service staff and the Sheriff's Department, as well as public safety in this matter. We often are called in to assess whether a property is private or public, and we also fill in when social service staff is not present to sit for abatement while the abatement crew works. So if you look at this chart, you can see that the majority of our cases come to us via officer observation while on a patrol. Over 50% of our cases are open through observation. The next biggest slice of the pie are neighbor, either residential or business complaints, people calling in to complain about their neighbors. The other slice of the pie are various other entities such as in-house staff and other organizations. Next slide. This next graph will show you open versus closed code enforcement cases. And now this is a period of essentially a year from last April to now. So you can see the majority of our cases are public nuisance related, And you may ask why there's more closed cases than open cases. That's because there's an overlap. There's always cases in constant flux that have been open in the past that are overlapping into the current time. Next slide. So some before and after pictures. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. And so this is currently one of the things we're trying to tackle, and this is the street vendors, our taco vendors. This one in particular was quite stubborn, but we utilized some city staff to act as undercover, someone that looked very young. We had them approach and ask for contact information to see if they were interested in providing services for the quinceañera. So they did provide the information. We were able to track down the LLC behind them and send them an administrative site. They packed up and they haven't been back since. So that is one we've been successful. Hopefully we can address some of the others. In the near future, I have a operation scheduled with the sergeant and her team. We're gonna go out and we're gonna go canvass the area at night to see how many vendors we do have operating in the city and address them accordingly. Next slide. So in conclusion, I would ask that maybe the council consider a code enforcement ad hoc committee so that you can be engaged in proactive direction and help us review the current codes, identify code enforcement priorities, and revise and adopt necessary codes to address. Any thoughts or questions?
Ralph, thank you for your presentation. Councilwoman Garcia, this is your item. Would you like to speak on it?
Yes, I would. Good evening, Ralph. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Great job, great presentation. You did a good job. I have a follow-up questions on page 1. I think it's page 1, right? Where you're explaining and you're describing your definition. On the third one, it says, although it is always the goal to the city to obtain voluntary compliance, then it goes on to must be compelled by administrative. What does that mean?
Administrative? So administrative is non-judicial. Judicial. So we issue a cite that they don't go to court, they just pay the city. It's a fine that the city levies. It's an administrative site only, and they have to come to the city to pay it, directly to the city. And there is an appeal process they can follow, but it's within the city only. They don't go to court, they can't appeal to court. It is not a judicial system at all, administrative only.
Okay.
So misdemeanor citation, right, is basically summons to court, and they would have their day in court, and the judge would have to weigh in and actually rule. If they're found guilty, that would be the judge to issue that ruling. They could be found not guilty, but that is a judicial system.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me see. So on your open versus closed code enforcement cases that you have on your graph, do you know how many businesses we have?
What's that?
Do you know how many businesses we have?
How many businesses we have? I do not know the number of businesses currently in the city.
Okay.
I will say that there are a number of businesses that we do come across that have not completed the license process, and we do open up cases when we come across that.
So would you know the number of businesses we have throughout the city, Vilco? Would it be like maybe 2,000?
If I remember correctly, it's got to be at least 2,200 that
Okay.
are licensed businesses in the city.
Okay. So maybe you should jot that down. Let's see. So what do you mean by public nuisance?
So a public nuisance are just anything like weeds, overgrown vegetation, visible junk in the front yard. A nuisance covers like a myriad of things, but generally it's the simple things that you see, but may include some more egregious offenses.
So let's just say somebody calls and says the garden's not kept up. So you go out there for a citation, or you're going to give a citation. Do you also look around to see if there's other violations? Or,
Yes,
or are you just
yes.
focusing on that one?
No, during the investigation process, we always look to see the property in totality. So we observe other things beyond what the complaint, initial complaint. Yes, we're
Uh-huh.
going to include those in the violation report.
Okay, that's good to know. What would you consider a priority case?
Something that is a danger to the public.
Have you encountered anything like that?
What's that?
Have you encountered anything like that?
Yes, we have.
Can you give me an example or one of your cases, please? Just so that I can see where you're coming from and what kind of work you do, because this is all new to me. So this is why I asked for your presentation, so that I can have a background on exactly what you do.
So we've had cases in the past where maybe someone has an in-out vehicle in their driveway and it's on blocks and it looks, not stable. And we've gotten complaints, so we've gone out and, that could be a dangerous, kid could be riding the tricycle behind the car, could fall. That would be a dangerous situation that needs immediate abatement. We knock on the door, hopefully someone's home and get them to address it as soon as possible.
Okay. So when you respond to a call, can you walk me through the process from when you get the call to the time you turn in your paperwork? And what's the timeline for the turnaround?
So depending on the case, it's all case dependent. Depending on what the complaint is and what the investigation, what you find during your investigation. Let's say it's just a simple call, my neighbor doesn't mow their lawn, the weeds are high. Of course, you drive out to the location, you verify that it indeed is true. You document it through photos. If possible, we do a door knock to see if someone's home, so we can talk to someone on site immediately. If it's not answered, we just go back, we put the photos in the case file, and we prepare a notice of violation and send it out. And then we go back and we see if they have contacted us, we'll make arrangements to inspect the property with them. If not, we go back after 14 days or so to see if it's been abated. If it's been abated, we close the case. If not, another notice goes out. We get an attempt to make contact, so on and so forth.
So the first attempt, you send out a letter, and it's 14 days before you get out there again to give a second notification? Did I get
Typically,
that
we
right?
give them 14 days to comply.
So in the second notification, what happens then?
A second notification is very similar to a first notification, just as the second notification. Again, depending on the seriousness of the violation, we may escalate and automatically send it to the attorney's office for compliance letter from the attorney's office. But if it's something just as simple as a couple items of junk on the front yard or overgrown vegetation, weeds in the front yard, we may go 2, 3 notices before we involve legal. Sometimes we do, through investigation, find out there's an issue going on. We have like a social worker's approach, right? Sometimes we find out that there's an issue, there was a death in the family, there's an economic issue, someone's lost a job, they can't pay for their landscaper any longer. So we try to work with them and wait for them to comply with a little bit of patience. If we have resources available to them, we steer them towards those resources.
Okay. So I guess we can set up a meeting so I can get more detailed information. But for now, I would like to see in the near future a quarterly report. And in this quarterly report, I would like to see the following. How many cases have you worked? How many cases have you closed within 30 days? And then at the end of the year, you bring up all your cases. And what are your top 10 cases, mostly complaints that you have had? How many violations do you have when you go out for a call? And I think we went over that one where you see the grass and then you see other violations. So I would also like to know how many cases does your staff have open and closed? And I do like the photos that you're providing, so continue that. And if you can separate your graphs from the business and residential. So quarterly report, I'd like to see all of those updates. Thank
Quarterly
you.
detailed reports.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, those are my comments.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Is there any comments, Councilwoman Rebollo?
Thank you for the reports. I know in the past you and I have had conversations about like when there's senior residents that just can't keep their property upkept. And I think because I keep getting those phone calls, but it's like a senior living by themselves that can't cut the grass or do all this stuff, right? So I think if you can maybe really look into like what we can do, because I think, and you mentioned it, thank you for mentioning it. You mentioned it, as you're talking about the reports about, if somebody died and then there's no money to keep the house, stuff like that. So do we all, you said you mentioned, you point them towards programs or services that are available? What are some of those things that are available to somebody that, let's say, can't upkeep their house, or a senior that can't like mow their grass? Or...
Sometimes I look to our social services staff to see if they know of any programs available.
Uh-huh.
We have had some business in the past come forth and want to provide some type of volunteer work. However, when they start looking into it and they look into the liabilities associated, they back off. There's always the issue of liability. I know in the past the city had its program where they were paying landscapers to go and provide service to senior homes, but I know that ended, and I know the reasons why that had to end.
Do you know why that had to end?
I believe it was a gift of city funds that can no longer continue.
Okay. So can you maybe start looking into like what, even if it's like, how council can support an idea, or I just think that we have homes within our community that they just can't upkeep them, right? And what are we going to do? We're going to continue to give them citations, but they still can't, they're still not going to be able to cut their grass or their trees. And so I guess question for legal counsel, and maybe it's something that we'll have to look into, but I know that there's been organizations, like you mentioned, right, that would love to come out and volunteer. I know that there's members of the community, right, between Kevin and I, members of our volunteer team, who have mentioned, right, like, hey, do you know, we would love to help so-and-so resident, mow their lawn because they can't. Does the city, and I guess back in the day, we used to let them borrow lawnmowers, right? So I know that there's members in our community that would love to volunteer, especially if it's, someone that's down on their luck, or a senior resident that, just needs help mowing their lawn or like trimming the trees, right? So maybe even if it's something that we have to sit down together and talk about and like plan out something. But I think this is the time to really look at what we can do and what didn't work in the past, or why was it shut down in the past. Like, look at ways to fix it and not just say like, well, we just can't do it because of liability, right? Because there's always something we can do. And I know there's people out there that want to volunteer. We get them all the time for our events. So if we can maybe have those conversations, or if you have an idea of how we can do it, launch it, or whatever we can do. But I think that's something that we really need to look at within the city, because I know you probably have gotten the phone calls, right, of the same recurring person or people that they just can't do it, physically cannot do it, but it's their property, right? So yeah, even I volunteer myself to even go out on a weekend and help with volunteers, whatever we can do. I just think that it's something that's really, really needed in our community. I know other communities do it or have done it. So if maybe we can look at that and reach out and see how they're able to do it and why we can't do it, right? If it's a liability thing. But yeah, thank you for the report. And let's just kind of work on that. I think that's something.
Well, that's why I always suggest the council ad hoc.
Yeah.
So that we can sit down, because, you have connections here in the city, and you have connection to resources and churches and businesses. And I would love to sit down and talk about these ideas and look and see what resources we have available and we have a connection to put persons in contact with, right, to help them comply, because it is frustrating to open up a case on someone who's elder, who's lived in the city for quite a number of years, and they simply just don't have the means to comply. Yeah. And then we're looking at an abatement, taking them to court, putting a lien on their property.
Yeah.
That's not something,
that's something
that I
we
think
wanna
we
avoid.
all want to rush in and do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councilmember Linus.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Ralph, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for walking through it. I think the Code Enforcement Ad Hoc Committee is a good idea. I would be willing to join something like that, because I think your team does need to be supported. But thank you for your efforts, and Officer Martinez, thank you for all that you do, because, Commerce is 6.5 square miles. So, while we're not very dense, we are kind of spread out. And so, I know sometimes it's tough to do, but there are some code enforcement things that we should probably look at in the city, right? And this was all very informative. One of the things that was discussed in our neighborhood watch meeting in Bristol Park last week was, you know, Bristol Park is a little unique in the sense that there are some commercial businesses kind of like positioned like within residential, right? And I think some of those commercial businesses aren't doing a great job of keeping up with the exterior of their property. I can't really see what's going on inside with the exterior. And so I think that, you know, some of the community members expressed concern that, you know, maybe there does need to be some more continuous code enforcement with those. So if you can maybe keep that on your radar as something to look at. Like I know personally when I've driven down like Sydney and like Noakes, there's a couple of businesses on that street, like at the end of that block, and you know, I think they could really work on staying within compliance. So, but thank you for the information. Great job. I just think, you know, I'll join the ad hoc committee if that's something maybe we can discuss offline, you know, and you know, yeah, okay, great. And I don't know if that's something that necessarily needs to be agendized or, you know.
Yeah, let's put it on the agenda for the next meeting and create the ad hoc. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, okay. So we'll look at getting that on the agenda just to make it formal. But yeah, if we can maybe look at some of those things. And one question I did have, you know, I know you're in the process of hiring a full-time officer. My understanding is that code enforcement works Monday through Thursday from 8 to 6, kind of like city hall hours. I know one of the things you mentioned on the presentation, that's what kind of triggered my memory was the street vendors, right? And so street vendors typically set up shop after 6 p.m., right? And usually it's on the weekend. And so how does that typically get handled? Is that something where code enforcement is putting in extra hours to address?
Not necessarily extra hours. Sometimes it is extra hours, but often it's an adjustment of hours. We will adjust our hours to come in to address things that need to be addressed either after hours on weekends if necessary.
Okay.
So I've been here, you know, occasionally on weekends. I've been here occasionally after hours to address. You know, just like going to neighborhood watch meetings. And whenever possible, I always like to attend the neighborhood watch meetings because I like to hear the complaints firsthand.
Right.
And then sometimes I'm able to offer answers to their questions because I can share with them that business or that property that you have issues with, we already are aware we have a case. And if you want to talk to me afterwards, I can share with you what's going on with that case.
Yeah. Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, I think we should look at that because I think, you know, sometimes I think I've seen other city resources like handling the street vendors. And so I just want to make sure that we're kind of keeping things within department, you know, so, but that's something we can discuss, you know, offline. All right. Thank you, Ralph.
Ralph, thank you for your presentation. This is a receive and file, so we'll go ahead and receive and file. So thank you so much. And we will then move on to city council reports. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
If I didn't say thank you again. So we can start on my right with Councilwoman Garcia. Would you like to?
Sure. Well, I gladly attended the neighborhood watch at Bristol Park, like my colleague said. It was nice to see several residents out there in attendance. The residents were able to meet the captain, the sergeant, and the deputies, and of course Justin, our public safety manager. And that was nice for you guys to be out there talking to our residents and calming them down. I want to let the residents know that we acknowledge that there are some issues and that are pending, but our team is working hard to resolve the issues. That's what I wanted to say to the residents. Moving on to my volunteer breakfast that I attended. It was a wonderful event. Thank you, Sonia and staff. It was really nice to hear Sonia's background. I didn't know she had so many things that she's done. She's just all around person. I want to thank the volunteers for your commitment to contribute to your time and talents to volunteering. Your volunteer service will truly make a difference and help the departments continue to build healthy communities through people, parks, and programs. And that ends my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lainez?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. On Saturday, April 13th, I also attended the annual library volunteer breakfast. And so I do want to thank Evelyn Diaz, our literacy program manager, because I know she typically orchestrates that event every year. And of course, Sonia and the rest of the library staff who helped make that happen. But most importantly, I do want to thank the volunteers, as my colleague just mentioned, you know, from whether it's the food pantry drive-through or helping support library programming and events throughout the year, like the college fair or tutoring at the literacy center. The volunteers really help us like provide great programming and services from the library department. And, I don't think a lot of that would be possible without them. So I just really appreciate their efforts and everything they do throughout the year. And if, any members of the public, whether it's anybody here or watching online, if you're interested in volunteering, I recommend, going to the library, going to the Literacy Center and talking to Evelyn, because I know the library is looking for volunteers and they're continuously looking for volunteers to help, whether it's Tutor Our Youth or the food pantry drive-through. And those are very important services that our city provides, and you can be a part of something greater than yourself by joining. So the volunteer breakfast was great. As I mentioned, I also attend the neighborhood watch meeting at Bristow Park, and one of the primary issues that's been discussed at a few of the neighborhood watch meetings that I've attended is parking. And so I think we really need to start looking at, what we're going to do as far as a solution to parking. I don't necessarily know if permit parking is the answer. I think that's up to the public, the people that live in the area. One thing that we've talked about is T-marking, right? Just making sure that we have assigned parking, just to make sure that we're maximizing the space that we have to park our vehicles. And it would also help identify oversized vehicles that are maybe parked in the street. So maybe something to consider there. But, I know Justin and I, we've talked about this a little bit. And so I think it's something that is on our radar and something we may be looking to move forward on. But, in the 3 or 4 neighborhood watch meetings that I've been to, that's been the primary culprit, parking. Here I thought it was, the car break-ins or the catalytic converters. That's my primary, the catalytic converter. But, but I think those are issues too, right? But I think what really affects people's quality of life every day is finding a parking space, right? So I think we do have to do something about that. The other thing that was brought up outside of code enforcement, which I mentioned to Ralph, but the other thing that was brought up was bringing back events to Bristow Park. And this falls more into Parks and Rec. I think, a couple of the community members at the neighborhood watch meeting really had some valid comments. Previously, we've done Cinco de Mayo and Fiestas Patrias in September up at Bristow Park. That was always like the Bristow Park events. And we haven't had that for a few years now. Certainly the pandemic had something to do with that, but we're now 2 years out. So I know we'll be looking at budget soon, but it may be something to consider. I know it's too late for Cinco de Mayo, right? But maybe there is something that we can do for September. But I think we should really consider it because, I think Bristow Park is a community that they feel neglected, right? And historically they felt neglected, which is why they formed the United Family of Bristow, right? And I think we should try to look at, maybe kind of spreading the wealth a little bit over to that community. And so that's it for my neighborhood watch comment. I think the last thing I want to do is just remind everybody that there's a meeting with Union Pacific on Monday at 6 p.m. at the Senior Center. I know it's really targeted to people on Ferguson, but I think people in the Bandini area may look, they should probably look into attending too, right? I know there's people that live along Astor that are affected by the rail. I spoke with somebody today, and one of their concerns was rats coming from the rail yard on Astor. And I don't know if that's something that you've heard, but I've heard that from a couple of people, right? And so, it's a concern that maybe we bring up to the people that are kind of moderating that meeting on Monday, because it's something I've heard a couple of times, and I think it just needs to be looked at. That concludes my reports. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And when the mayor said that I had sent him some information, it was, well, I don't have all the information. However, there's a street vendor that is in City of Commerce, and it's next to Bell Gardens. And what happened last week was somebody went there, purchased some tacos, crossed the street, and across the street is Bell Gardens, so they crossed the street, entered Bell Gardens, and there was a hit and run. So this person was deceased. They ran him over, and apparently this resident, this person who hit this person was a Commerce resident. So the cameras that all are around the streets was able to identify the areas that he drove into, and the car was in front of his house. And that's how they caught him. But my question is, so if we have these street vendors and I know that we've all been concerned about the dangers that it creates on these boulevards. Is there rules that we can now establish and create around this because of incidents that take place like this? Because this is not the first time, and it's happened in other cities as well. So I just want us to really take a look at that and see if we can implement something that it creates a danger, right, to people that actually go there and eat. I mean, it can happen to anybody, you know. So also, I mean, if you commit a crime, you can't get away with things today. So don't try to run because you will get caught.
Vice Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
To your point, myself, Justin, the sergeant, and Ralph had a meeting with Bell Gardens officials last week, which included pretty much their entire. So their city manager was involved, their chief was involved, some code enforcement, their CSO. So it's twofold. We're also looking at the speeding that goes along Gage, right? I mean, that's been a big issue, predominantly in cases more so the Bell Gardens area than it does ours, right? However, we found it prudent that we meet with them and proceed collaboratively, right, in addressing both issues. So as a result of that, there's going to be a smaller kind of group that will meet to come up with some alternatives and solutions that will address both. I do know that the city manager of Bell Gardens was going to give direction to their traffic engineer, look at any type of calming measures that they could put into play. I believe from Garfield down to pretty close to Greenwood. And we're also, and when you mention the taco stands, right? It's that particular taco stand kind of like was teetering both on City of Commerce property and of course City of Bell Gardens. I know that Ralph has had discussions with that particular business, so we're paying close attention to that, and we've been told, and Ralph will follow up this tomorrow night, that particular vendor has moved from that location and has come into Commerce area. So we'll be dealing with that as we move forward with this collaborative effort with the City of Bell Gardens.
Okay, thank you. And then so what I wanted to do was thank our Parks and Rec Director, Greg, for giving Councilwoman Garcia and myself a tour of the art that was created in Whittier. We probably saw 6 or 7 pieces, and I was surprised to see that Greg was involved in some of this art, and I learned a lot about what he knows connected to the art world. So I'm excited to start to sit down and work with him and get the ball rolling. So thank you, Greg, for giving us a tour, and congratulations on the beautiful art that you were involved in over there. So it was nice. It was nice to have that tour. That's the end of my report tonight, I believe. Councilwoman Reboy, did you have something to say? Oh no, I just thought, Lioness, you asked me. Did you say this?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was a joke. Sorry about that.
I'll be brief since they're trying to silence me over here. I wanted to congratulate Bell Gardens baseball. For the first time since 2013, they're going to the playoffs. So I just wanted to congratulate my alma mater, and also just there's a sense of pride to know that there's some Commerce Aces alumni on that team. And one of the assistant coaches from Commerce, Mr. Miguel Maravilla, who's also assisting. So it's just really amazing to see Bell Gardens sports just putting Bell Gardens High School on the map. And while it's Bell Gardens High School, there are some students from Commerce that attend that high school. So it is a sense of pride for us as well. So congratulations to Bell Gardens baseball. Also to Marissa Fierro, who is continuing to move up in the ranks of women's water polo in the ODP. I believe she's about to cross that line to make that national team. So that's also another sense of pride for all of us. So, you know, make sure that you remember Marissa Fierro, because I see, you know, an Olympics in her future. She's also the, you know, her mom and dad grew up here in the city of Commerce. Her whole family has grown up here in the Commerce. Tina, Gina, Dina, her grandparents on both sides, on her mom's side and her dad's side, have grown up here. So it is just really a sense of pride for not just as a female Latina, but just you know, as a member of our Commerce community. So congratulations to Marissa Fierro and her family. I was not able to attend the volunteer breakfast because I was supporting my son and the water polo team. But I heard it was a wonderful event, and I wanted to say thank you to all of our volunteers that continue to assist our community with food drives, Las Embajadoras from the library, everything that they do to support our staff here in the city of Commerce. And with that, as we close up the month of autism awareness, I do want to ask for just kind of a informative report, Greg, on what trainings our staff go through as it relates to dealing with our special needs community. I wanted to know, you know, the time, like how many times a year they train, what agencies are training them. Also for public safety, if our public safety is going through, do they do sensitivity training, and how to deal with patrons with special needs. I would like to know how many times they get trained a year, what agencies they're using to train specifically for our special needs community. I know for the sheriff's deputy, Sergeant Duarte explained that, but I didn't ask for our CSOs if they go through special needs training, and if they do, I would like to know what agencies we're using, because I think it's as the summer is coming up, we're going to see a lot more people at our parks and a lot more residents attending our programs, and I want to make sure that we are as inclusive as possible. Obviously, that's been a cause that's been near and dear to my heart since I got elected, to make sure that as a city that we are inclusive. So I want to make sure that we're still keeping up to that promise of inclusivity. And that's it. So with that, thank you very much to everybody that stuck around, and have a good evening, and God bless everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, so this meeting is now adjourned, so thank you.